They sent us out there to be scarecrows. That's what a 30-year veteran lieutenant with the Chicago Police Department said when talking about the strategy or lack thereof. Under the guise of anonymity, this lieutenant opened all the way up about what the Chicago Police Administration did, or more easily to say, didn't do, in the wake of the incident in Minnesota, which made May 31st the most deadliest day in the last 60 years in Chicago. What's going on, guys? Disorderly Product News. We live in an era where every answer to any question is at the touch of your finger. Now, we've gotten used to this, and we are inundated with information, inundated with data. But there is one place, one section of society that has been cordoned off and not allowed for the public's eye to see. That is the blue coat of silence, the blue wall of steel. But a 30-year Chicago police lieutenant peeled back the curtain and showed the man talking into the microphone in The Wizard of Oz. He let us know what's going on behind the scenes and how ill-prepared the administration was for what was going on. To be the third largest city in the most powerful country in the world, you would have thought we had a plan. But when you hear what really was going on, it's going to leave you dumbfounded. In an article by Block Club Chicago, so the article is titled, Police Lieutenant Says Chicago Was Unprepared for Unrest. It was chaos from the very beginning. From making decisions on how to deploy his officers to being overwhelmed by people looting, the lieutenant gives a supervisor's perspective. I've never experienced anything like this in my career. After battling civil unrest and looting last week, a Chicago police lieutenant with almost 30 years on the job described a department stretched thin, lacking direction, and fearing what could happen next. In a wide-ranging interview, the lieutenant, who works in a north side district but was stationed downtown and on the south side last week, agreed to talk to Social Block Chicago, provided his identity and specific district not be disclosed. Now, multiple officers on their 10th straight day of work, working 12-hour shifts, as the unrest rose, they've made a staging point at the parking lot of Guaranteed Rate Field. That's Comiskey Park. That's where the White Sox play. It's at 35th and Shields, which is a very strategic point, as it's in the low end. So it's the low end of the south side. When I say low end, I mean the numbers are low. So the south side stretches all the way up to 150, 160, 170. So they're at 35th Street. And then when you get to Madison, which is 0, that's the west side. So they're right there in the two main hotspot trouble areas, the west side and the south side. Had they set it up in Wrigley Field, they would have been all the way up north. So it was strategic to put it on there because there's an expressway right there, 90-94, the Dan Ryan. As unrest worsened, Chicago police set up shop in the parking lot of Guaranteed Rate Field, where platoons would be assembled and sent to various neighborhoods. This is the way it would work. At 11 a.m., I'd show up at U.S. Cellular Field and check in with the lieutenants. He's talking about the same field. He's calling it U.S. Cellular Field because that's what it was called for so long. But now its name has been changed to Guaranteed Rate Field. At 11 a.m., I would show up to U.S. Cellular Field and check in with the lieutenants to the deputy chiefs. So I'd come in and check in with the lieutenants and the deputy chiefs. They'd say, go out and find 6 sergeants and 60 officers. And once you have a platoon together, come back and see me, the lieutenant said. The lieutenant would walk through a sea of people and look for white shirts, the sergeants. I'd ask if they had a lieutenant already. Yes, no. It was like a dating game. Then you would find a sergeant and ask how many officers he had, he said. Once the lieutenant had 6 sergeants and 60 officers, they'd go back to the deputy chiefs and were deployed to a neighborhood. Literally, it was, here's where you're going. It wasn't, here's your function, here's what you're supposed to do, this is what we want you to do. It was just, go there and be scarecrows. Lieutenant said, that's literally what they want us to do. Go there and be scarecrows. There's no direction, there's nothing. It was chaos from the very beginning. I mean, I don't know if that you could put that more in a more thought-provoking way. They were scarecrows. They were just basically there to be shown that they were there. But that didn't stop anything. There was no real plan. It would show up in this huge parking lot where you could see all these officers and just go pick out a ragtag group of people. That sounds like some war movie where so many, people are hurt and wounded that you just have to round up whoever you can to, mount another assault. But this is how they started from the beginning. And now you have officers and sergeants that are in parts of the city they don't work, and they haven't been in there before. You're not going to know where to go. You're not going to know where's. It just completely defeats the purpose of having any kind of experience, right? The lieutenant said he thinks the Chicago police leadership should have acted sooner to cancel days off and put more officers on the streets. We can Monday morning quarterback all we want, but they should have canceled days off 2 days earlier. It should have started on Friday. They knew what was coming. Minneapolis, all these other places were having problems. It was definitely coming here, the lieutenant said, and said police leadership were trying to get the cat back in the bag after looters hit commercial corridors hard. The looters were emboldened. They were on a roll. They were getting what they want, and we were unable to stop them, so we're letting them have it, the lieutenant said. There's no direction, really. They just drop us off at corners, and we would take it upon ourselves to deter looting. On May 31st, when crowds of looters hit the city particularly hard, he said officers watched on as looting continued. We weren't really trying to catch anybody because the crowds were too big and we don't want our officers getting separated and getting hurt. So the main priority is protecting our officers. The lieutenant said he kept groups of sergeants and 10 officers working together on the streets. So if I got 40 officers and 4 sergeants, I can try to protect 4 businesses, or I can protect the front and the back of 2 businesses, and that's it. He said, I wasn't going to spread them out, try and cover an entire block with 40 officers and break them down to 2 or 3. It's too dangerous. I had officers hitting the head with bricks, bottles. It's literally chaos. And my goal is, as a supervisor, is to keep my officers as safe as possible. So what he's saying is if he has 40 officers and 4 sergeants, he can cover 2 businesses front and back, or the front of 4 businesses. So he would need 2 sergeants, 10 officers in the front, 10 officers in the back, 10 officers in the front, 10 officers in the back. 2 sergeants in the front, 2 sergeants in the back of each business. That's what he felt like. The lieutenant described a lack of leadership from those above him. The commander from the district pulls up. Now remember, whatever district they're in, this is the commander. The commander is the top dog. He is if you look at it this way, 35th in Michigan is CPD headquarters. That's where the superintendent is. He's the president. We have 22 districts. There's a commander for each district. That's the governor of a state. So whatever district they were in, this is the governor, the commander of that district. He's the top dog. He asked what's going on, so I gave him a rundown. I say 1 officer got hit by a brick, 1 officer got hit by a bottle. Looters got into those 3 stores over there. They tried to get into the one over here, but we're holding it down. They tried to get into another one over there, but we're holding it down. This is how many officers I got. This is what I got, the lieutenant said. After giving the commander the rundown, he asked what the team should be doing. The commander told him to just get through it, according to the lieutenant. I was like, anything we should do? Any suggestion? He shakes his head and looks at me and says, just get through it. And that's just my block. That was 1 p.m. in the afternoon, Sunday, May 31st, broad daylight. I was dreading when it got dark. Chicago Police declined to directly address the lieutenant's claims of chaos in the department. While the Chicago Police Department is not going to respond to unverified comments made by one anonymous member, please see the below background information on the department's operations over the past week, the statements read. As part of their response to looting, vandalism, violence, Chicago's centralized response in Chicago's neighborhoods on the south and west sides canceled days off for officers. As part of their response to looting, vandalism, and violence, police centralized response in Chicago neighborhoods on the south and west sides canceled days off for officers, instituted 12-hour shifts, requested help from the National Guard and state police, and deployed hundreds of city trucks to provide strategic traffic support on the south and west sides, police say. The city also launched first of its kind Summer Operations Center to ensure public safety resources and city services were reaching the most vulnerable people in the most vulnerable neighborhoods, according to the statement. So what happened in Chicago that didn't happen in other places? Well, first, we got a brand new superintendent who's only been in Chicago for about a month and a half. There's a lot of people that said it was a bad idea to switch from an intern, Charlie Beck, who got the job back in around December, but was only going to be interim, to switch from an interim to a primary in the middle of the bird flu, of all this happening. And it turned out to be a very, very bad idea, because he came on, and about 2 or 3 weeks later was Memorial Day. We had a terrible Memorial Day as far as violence. He got blamed for it, so he overexerted himself. A lot of things happened on Memorial Day as far as a viral video with police trying to break up social distancing parties for social distancing, and getting in fights with the neighborhood, which in turn caused him to be oversensitive I know he gave a stand down order, because on Friday, before all this popped off, I saw how they were treating the cops. He gave a stand down order. He gave an order for nobody to get into it with the cops or with the civilians. So you have a brand new superintendent who doesn't know anything about Chicago. He's the one in charge. Everyone's looking for him to be in charge, but he doesn't know anything, so he's looking for everybody else to help him out. And it was just the perfect storm. People are mad because they've been locked up. They're angry at the case in Minneapolis. And just like this lieutenant said, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I saw him catching looters and then letting them go. Well, they're not all of a sudden going to grow a conscience. They're just going to go to the next spot and know that you can't get in trouble. They're not arresting us for this. We just emboldened them. Everybody was going. Everybody. It was just like a free-for-all. So the new superintendents paralyzed the Chicago Police Department by telling them to stand down. They're scared to do anything. Nobody's getting in trouble, which is only emboldening people. And plus, they have an attitude of, I've been locked up all this time. They got all this anger and rage of not having any money. And then the video that came out of Minneapolis, all that put together sent Chicago up in flames. So that's what it is in a nutshell. It was the superintendent's inability to act, his inexperience, the fact that they weren't arresting looters, which is only emboldened them, and they were told to stand down. So they just basically were just standing around looking at people, and just, like he said, scarecrow. Well, they're not going to steal it right in front of me. Well, they were. If you saw that Gap store, it's got like it comes on like a V, and it's got floor to ceiling windows, and the cops were on the other side of the V at the entrance, so they could see right across all the way to the street, let alone the people inside the store. They could see that car from where they were parked on the other side. So It was just a perfect storm of ineffective leadership, pretty much paralyzing your police force by telling them to stand down, and the citizens being so angry because of the economics and the political and social climate in the United States today. My name is Disorderly Product News, wishing you and yours a very happy and healthy week. Good night.